If you've ever wondered how the dynamic active stabilization and the ZV-E1 pair up with the gimbal, you're gonna find out today. The ZV-E1 has an amazing dynamic active stabilization that helps stabilize your footage when you're doing some handheld shots. Now, I'm curious to see how good it's going to perform with the gimbal, especially with a lens that does not have OSS like the Tamron 20-40 and as well as 35-150, since it's a bigger lens that it's going to be interesting to see how well it balances with a more compact body and see what kind of footage we can get out of it. My main goal is going to be to see how well the dynamic active stabilization paired with a gimbal does, and that way you can see how well it could be in case you're wondering if a compact body like the ZV-E1 would be a great addition with the dynamic active stabilization, and a gimbal if you're trying to shoot more, gimbal types of shots, and maybe it'll help you out in the long run so that it's not as heavy when it comes down to, shooting with a gimbal. So this is a Giant Crane 2 Pro, I believe it is. Anything that I ever use of my gear is always in my description below. So if you want to check it out with my affiliate links as a support to the channel at no extra cost to you, definitely check all my gear at the description down below, and maybe it'll help you out to figure out what gear works, because all the gear that I put there is actual gear that I've used personally, that I've bought myself, or I really believe in, that I've been able to test out, and I think you would benefit from it because I've benefited from it. So now we're gonna be just using the 20-40 first. I'm gonna try to do it like at the 24 range and just sprinkle around like all the other type of focal ranges with it. Give you those examples so you can see with the dynamic active stabilization, and then we'll do the 35-150, but we're gonna use this nice scenery that we have here. That way we're able to get some nice symmetry and just kind of some nice footage that people will probably use it, as well as, since the ground isn't as the most sturdy as out there, it'll help you see if there's any micro jitters or anything like that too. So that's using the 20-40 by Tamron and just kind of doing the active dynamic stabilization with the ZV-E1. Mainly what I wanted to do is kind of just doing a little bit of the gliding around and everything, and then as well as a follow. So, kind of following her around and seeing how the terrain would fold up. Sometimes obviously the most thing is just how good you are with your gimbal. I'm not that pro on a gimbal, but that way it'll give you a more realistic view of how it can be, since if I do okay at it, that means that it probably works better if you're already a pro at gimbals. And if you're not a pro at gimbals and you're more like a intermediate to beginner, because I don't really, use them as often, then you kind of can see how it'll look for you as well. But now we're gonna switch lenses and we're gonna put my 35-150 on the gimbal and then switch lenses right here so we can see a little bit of how the more telephoto type of range can work out with the dynamic active stabilization with the gimbal. Because in my last examples that I did with the handheld, if you haven't seen that video, it'll be right here. But I showed you how it worked out with the more telephoto side of the range when it came down to the dynamic active stabilization with the lens. So we're gonna find out if it really is gonna help it out, or is it gonna be about the same? Because with my testing before, it wasn't the most amazing results because there's a little bit more of the micro jitters even with the dynamic active stabilization, especially since apparently with using third-party lenses, I guess the stabilization within the camera isn't as best, apparently, from what I've heard of people that use this native Sony lenses. So we'll figure it out together. So now we can use a 35-150. This is how it looks. It's gonna be interesting to see. So we'll see what happens.
This is where I noticed that there was more micro jitters in the footage. As I was speeding up with the gimbal, I started to do more of a running type of shot with it, so I wanted to see how it tests out more in the telephoto range with this lens.
So that's all the footage that we were able to take with this setup using the Tamron 20-40 and the 35-150 with the dynamic active stabilization of the ZV-E1 with a gimbal. This gimbal is actually nice because it's able to handle a bigger payload, but despite of that, I still see relatively amounts of, micro jitters the faster that I move. It's not gonna be perfect, I'll be honest with that, because I feel like if you have a bigger body, I think it's gonna stabilize the body itself more. Sadly, with the Sony a7S III, for example, and the a7 IV, they don't have the new dynamic active stabilization. You have to kind of fork over a little bit more cash like the Sony a7R5 or the new A9 Mark III. So now if you have $6,000 or $3,800 like the a7R5 around that you want to spend on it, or you already, plan to get one of those or something like that, then maybe it'll work out better with the dynamic active stabilization. But this little setup itself is not horrible. Is it doable? Yes, you can use it to whatever you need to. Nothing is ever perfect in the camera world or anything like that. You just have to make it work for yourself as much as possible. Take that into consideration when you think about, this setup as well as the footage and examples to see what could work out best for you. Are you able to maybe walk better than I can when it comes down to a faster pace because you can, make sure that your steps are nice and stabilized so that it becomes more stable with the footage? Perhaps. I'm not the best at, being a ninja out here, but I try to do what I can to be able to give the examples. That way you can kind of see a more realistic example to see if it's the right fit for you. For me personally, keeping it with a 20-40, or even if you have a 24-70 kind of style of lens, you probably will have a better luck with it, even with a compact kind of camera, because it seems to absorb the jitters a lot better, especially the wider range you do that. I learned that even in my handheld examples of the dynamic active stabilization video. But if you do have a, lens that has OSS or anything like that, it could also just help out to pair up with it. None of these lenses that I did had it, so that's another thing that you want to consider, especially the more you go into the telephoto range with the 35-150. It would probably help out having the new 70-180 that has vibration compensation to do a more telephoto side of things. Despite the bigger size, I think it would work out even better, but don't have it to test it out anymore. But who knows? Maybe so. If anybody else has it, go for it and try it out. Let me know how it works out for you guys. But overall, is it gonna be the best setup in the world? Probably not, but can it work out and do the wonderful things that you need it to do if you plan accordingly? Of course, any gear can do that as long as you know your knowledge and can apply it accordingly. It'll work out for you guys like how it can work out for many others. But that's pretty much it. If you have any other questions about it or anything that you would like me to test out, please leave it below in the comments. I would love to go check it out and see how best I can help you guys out to see what's the best setup that can work out for you guys in the future, or if you're contemplating getting something that you're not 100% sure of and I can ease your, pain into the thought process, I'd be more than happy to do so. But with all that said and done, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, share this video with a friend. I'll catch you guys in the next one. See ya.